Yearning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
Welcome to Commander's Horn, episode 117. We are back after a long hiatus to chat with two players who stream a lot of Gwent, play a lot of Gwent, and I have recently just gotten really back into it for the last 2 weeks. I've been digging into the new expansion. We are here in Novigrad, and I'm going to be joined by Green Knight and Bushwook on today's episode of Commander's Horn. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All right. It is July 18th, 2019. A great day for your not-so-weekly Commander's Horn podcast, but we're back. I took a break, and I don't want to necessarily bore anybody with all of the details, but I'll put it in the show notes for the people who are listening on the feed. Again, you can always find Commander's Horn on iTunes, and it is available on the RSS feed. None of that stopped, even though we went to sleep for a little bit. So all the show notes, I'll make sure that I kind of talk a little bit about the hiatus. But beyond that, I just want to talk about Gwent. I know you guys are here to listen to a podcast about Gwent, and I just want to get right into it with my guests here. Returning to the program, Green Knight, Team Leviathan Gaming, and Gwent Open quarterfinalist of Gwent Open number... It was the most recent one? It's hard to remember. It's been so long. Was it the most recent Gwent Open?
Right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
March.
Yeah, it was March. It was March.
Don't ask me which number open it was because I don't know that myself.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was 8.
It was 8. Yeah.
Right.
There you go. And then also joining me from Denver, Colorado, I correctly guessed, kind of just based on his time zone, LordBushwook, a guy who streams a lot of Gwent, does 2 streams a day. Do you stream Gwent both times? You go live at this point? You're a dedicated Gwent streamer, also a member of Team Rankstar. And what's you grind the pro ladder? You're up there, right? You keep your pro rank. You're somebody who plays as much as you. Probably you don't lose it, I imagine, like I would.
Yeah, I mean, just sheer force of will. Not much talent, just sheer force of will keeps me there.
Just spamming those games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right on. All right, so this is awesome. We got some shout outs of Team Rankstar in the chat there. We see Gulo, also member of the team, and I'm sure some TLG boys will show up eventually. They tend to show up usually, especially when Green Knight's on the show. So I wanted to talk to you guys about 3 topics. We got 3 things I want to talk about because it's really hard. I need to condense a lot of news because it's been a long time since we've done the podcast. Big piece of news that we're probably not going to spend a lot of time talking about is Gwent Challenger. Number 5 has been announced and will be live on September 14th and 15th on CD Projekt Red's Twitch, YouTube, all the live channels. It'll be spammed by @GwentMasters on Twitter. So follow for any more future information. They've already started to announce the roster, and they're probably going to start to announce a lot more details now. It's just probably one of the most common questions I get. When is the new tournament? Probably because the Gwent Masters website isn't updated with that information, only their Twitter. So that's the information. If you came here to get the news, you got it. But the 3 things I want to talk about. 1, impact of Syndicate on Gwent. What you guys have just experienced. Everybody's been playing them differently. Like I haven't played very much Gudrun, and I've played a lot of Syndicate, but I just haven't got to her yet. So I want to know what you guys are doing these days with Syndicate. I want to talk about the impact of dual faction cards on the rest of the game, and just have a light conversation on where you guys think which faction won that. I asked on Twitter. I know what the public thinks. And finally, I want to talk about power creeping bronzes or the new future of bronzes, one or the other. So we're going to find out kind of what you guys think about that. But let's start off. Green Knight, tell us a little bit about yourself. This could be somebody's first podcast, as it's been a while. Reigning from the UK, Green Knight, how many hours of Gwent do you play a day, and how did you start playing Gwent?
How many hours per day?
I see you on Discord, right? I see you. You're always playing.
That's an unstable number. It really depends how much I'm enjoying the game.
Yeah.
And if there's something competitive going on. Just for fun, probably like 4 or 5 hours, because I really enjoy playing the game. But right now with the new expansion, probably like 6 hours.
Yeah.
I'm quite enjoying it.
Right on. Also in the chat, Flake making a comment about a fishbowl. If the audio is not, if you need some audio changes, please let me know in the chat. I can make them on the fly. I want this to be a very good podcast. And LordBushwook, how have you been enjoying the expansion? I mean, we got the expansion really fast. It was like Crimson Curse, 3 months, Novigrad. Did you think that was fast? And how have you been enjoying the expansion since it hit?
I've been liking it quite a bit. There's obviously some balance issues. That's kind of just bound to happen. It did seem like it came out like really, really fast, maybe a little bit too fast. I think it probably could have been delayed just a little bit, maybe up the premiums or the amount of premiums that they need to get out there, or do a little bit more checks on the balances. But content is content. I like the new expansion enough for what it is.
Yeah, and a lot of card games and a lot of expansions, there's a lot of stuff that's thrown around like this mid-expansion staleness. And I feel like considering that Nilfgaard got this huge upgrade, or update, I should say. No, I don't know if it was an upgrade, but it was definitely an update for most of those cards. And, it seems like things are always moving. We're getting end-of-month patches every month, and it's been like that since Crimson Curse launched, even before that, perhaps. You never really know what to expect at this point, so it feels like we're actually almost getting a game that's kind of reinventing itself every month, and it feels like there's not a lot of time for it to get stale. Did you feel like Crimson Curse was getting stale at all, Green Knight? Did you feel any staleness to the meta when you heard about Novigrad? Were you surprised about how quickly it was coming out?
I was definitely surprised about how quick it was coming out. And no, I didn't so much feel that there was a staleness, just that maybe not all of the cards were seeing play at the top of the competitive level.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then once the sort of the meta settles, and then it can naturally start to feel a little bit stale. But I don't think it was stale like content wise, definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, really surprised to see an expansion come out that fast, and grateful, probably the word. Like, I'm happy to see
it's great,
new content flowing in.
And it's cool because it was like a new faction, but it didn't really do much else. It was just like, here's the new faction, here's like the dual faction cards. Did feel like more people who I guess wouldn't be interested in this could still do new things, I guess, in the game. And of course there were some new features, but it was interesting the way they did it. The guests are a little bit on the soft side, so I'm going to bring you guys up a little bit. But I feel like the game has a really hard time getting stale. Like, even like cards like Nekurat were getting buffed like right up until Novigrad was getting released, and like I still haven't even made that organic deck that might even take advantage of that buff. But I don't know if that card is good even with the buff. But it was still something that, I never feel like I can be sure about anything. Like, anything can work any month. It's not its time yet. So these decks need time to grow. I think that's really cool. But Syndicate was added, so a huge new faction. LordBushwook, how many hours have you spent playing the Syndicate? Have you been putting time into the new faction, or just kind of focusing on your MMRs on Pro? Yeah, you're a big fan.
Up until the time that it got hot fixed, which was like a week or so, I was pretty much exclusively playing it. Was it a week? I don't know how long it was, but
yeah, it hasn't been long.
Pretty much eight hours per day up until it got hot fixed. Then after that, I kind of switched off to everything else. But yeah, I definitely got quite a few hours on Syndicate. Not so much after the hotfix though. So
yeah,
I've really only experienced really overpowered Syndicate, not just slightly overpowered Syndicate.
Yeah, that was a taste of power. I think that. Yeah, go ahead, Green Knight. It was strong.
I was
stuff.
kind of the opposite. That's all.
I didn't play
a little bit. I was disgusted, and then I was like, I'm gonna put an NR, and I got completely crushed.
Yeah, that's the issue. You need to just drop your morals and start playing the really OP.
Yeah, it's what every like kind of spike like player has to just kind of get to eventually. It's like, all right, this is really good. I got to play it a little bit. And I found that like now that there's 6 factions, I really feel the distance of that 6th faction. Like the 5th faction didn't feel so far away all the time, but now like I just feel like it's been weeks. I haven't touched scoia'tael, and I just don't even realize that's happening. I'm just trying to do my rotations. But I think Syndicate's pretty good. I like what it's done to the meta. Do you find that it's mostly Syndicate out there? What is it like on the pro ladder? Because I'm still not back up there yet for my inactivity D ranking. But I see a lot of variance in mid ranks. But pro ladder, is Syndicate pretty dominant, or is it still pretty assorted? You guys let me know.
I think it's pretty strong. I'd probably call it the best faction right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just followed by SK right behind it. I think bounties are just really, really overtuned. You see Horson exploiting them a lot, and Gudrun's also pretty good up there.
Gudrun's super strong, yeah. You need so much tall removal or so many ways to stop what's going to just be like 9-point fences and stuff like that, yeah.
Bincy.
Yeah, Bincy's like the one that I save everything for, but then there's all these other like 9 and 10-point things, and everything's getting boosted up, and it's pretty wild like what the combos are available for these leaders. Yeah, hit me, Green Knight. What were you going to say?
Yeah, just the bounty package seems to be in like every deck to an extent. Like you've got Horson, he's kind of like playing everything that says bounty on it, right? And just, but then you've got some other decks that are just at least using like 4 provision cards and the executioners. I think the 4 provision cards like Slander and Witch Hunter, like they're so good. I think you play them at like 6 provisions.
Yeah, they're pretty good. The Witch Hunter and I mean they're all so good. I mean, the fact that you're also profiting when you slander, like you're either getting coins or you're getting the body one way or another, and you can't pay any less for it. It's such a bargain. So bounty is the thing that seems to be still pretty sharp about the faction. Even with Caleb's nerf, that was like the thing that happened in the first hotfix. Much like Crimson Curse, a very quick hotfix happened immediately after the first weekend release. It happened at the end of this week, as opposed to Detlef, which happened like the first Monday, like the first hour of the workday. But this one took some time. And Caleb's nerf was not, the Witch Hunter Executioner. You just put the bounty on. And Purify isn't helping the situation, right? It's not like you can just tech against this and feel good about this. That's an open question.
I mean, you can't play 4 Pellers, right?
No, you can't. Well, you can if you're Nilfgaard, but only do you want to play 4 Pellers? What does that do to you in other matchups? That's the thing, right? That's always been the binary sort of argument, I think, from people in Gwent. Kukudak for the win, says Gulo. Get the 2 Purifies, so good. Yeah, I don't know. I think Bounty's up there as one of the strong. How would we tone this down? Do we think it's nerf worthy, and how would you do it? I got somebody in the chat saying ask Bushy how he likes Bounty. So I know how this is. We've already said it at that point, but you've obviously got more to say about it.
I mean, it's pretty brain dead. It's just so efficient that like you're allowed to not play very well. And you're playing 8 for 4s, 10 for 4s, and Slander and Witch Hunter. And then on top of that, you just have these really, really strong supporting cards like Xyz. And even though they only deploy for like 4 for 4, they just enable the bounties to be really, really strong.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Sewer Boy, Mr. Ewald.
Yeah. And Graydon and Morels. Like these are cards Graydon is one thing for bounty, but Morels is like a card you're probably running anyway. And it's so easy to kill those things and get those bounties and just chain it all together.
Yeah.
So what do we do
absolutely.
about it? Like, is it too hard? I mean, a lot of people argue that the setup you have to set up. You're maybe arguing that the counterplay isn't quite there yet. Is that how we're feeling?
If I was to nerf it, I would kind of just take like the bounty generators. Like something has to get nerfed on like on the damagers or on the generators and on just the bounty generators. Most of them just seem to be really, really overtuned in like points per provision. You could probably make them like 6 provision cards like Slander and Witch Hunter, or you can make them like 2-point cards in the form of like make Witch Hunter a 2 for 4 and have it give a bounty, and I think that's closer to balanced. Or like Slander doesn't like generate you profit, it just gives you a bounty for 4 provisions, or like maybe it gives you 1 profit.
What if bounty only ever gave you 3 coins no matter what you killed? Is that a crazy idea?
At that point, you're kind of just encouraging to like bounty 1-point units, right?
There's not that many of those, though. Not really.
Well,
are there? Or are there?
I mean, there's
not a lot. I mean, 2s, yeah, you get a little bit extra value on a 2, I guess. But I mean, there's not a lot of 1s out there, I guess. I feel like it could be a simple thing. But I don't know. Maybe that's nerfing it too hard. But it seems so good, right? It just seems like it's so rich. And when you drop that executioner and you just like empty your coin purse and fill it right back up again, it's just hard to ignore. Like I have some videos coming up on YouTube where I play awful. Like I'm wrong rowing stuff, but I feel like I have to post it anyway just to show how I could just come right back with just like a well-timed with a good draw for a bounty generator. It's just. You could get away with murder, really. It feels like it. Other than that, though, other than bounties, how do we feel about the faction in general? I feel like stuff like Eternal Fire feels pretty compelling. I think Horde is pretty cool. It's really strong. Obviously, we're talking about Gudrun as well. But I do like a lot of the mechanics. Like, how have you guys felt about the mechanics that's not bounty? I just throw out whatever one you want to talk about because there's so much going on with the faction. I think they did a good job.
I really like all that crime synergy with like cut-ups and the swole dwarf boys.
Yeah. Portal's good now, maybe.
Yeah, I like those for sure. Adzukov made a deck that I had a lot of fun with. That was like a Hammelfart list. And it just ran a bunch of crimes and double cut-up, double bare knuckle brawler.
Greeno, you've been playing that too. Greeno, you played a ton of that in the list too, right? And you actually worked with Adzukov on that one too, didn't you?
No. I basically just stole his list and adapted it.
Well, I mean, sure, maybe didn't work together on it. Let's not. But we're all very familiar with the list, at least.
Because it's a really cool list.
Yeah,
like, I just changed a few cards, really.
Do you guys want to talk about this list just a little bit? Because I'm actually really familiar with this list, and if you both have all played it and actually like really seen success with it, I think that it's a pretty good list. I just need to give maybe a little overview for the chat.
A really fun deck.
Yeah,
really
it's a crime-based, engine-based Hemmelfart list.
Like it's really sort of compelling play, right? It's not easy to play. Like you can play it pretty well once you get the hang of it, but like it feels like a little bit like Spies in a way. Like the skill cap's quite high, I think.
Mm-hmm. Because of how you
sometimes
can come back,
like you can play it perfectly and then you just get smoked and crushed by someone who played horribly just because they drew better or something. But that's Gwent. It feels like one of the most skill-intensive decks I've played in Homecoming, at least.
I mean, it makes me really. I think Horace Jr. is such a crazy card, but it doesn't seem like outlandishly good. But the fact that he can just instantly create 3 engines is just like, that's my kind of card, right? As a Northern Realms player, I'm like, 3 engines at the same time? Woo! That's amazing. I just love playing and you can just play Hemmelfart, just make the dudes and then just convert them. Just convert. It's like 2 kinds of conversion, right? Religion and
the cut-ups are really vicious.
They're so vicious. The bonded, yeah.
1 point per turn engines, and that's the thing about the Hemmelfart deck. It doesn't need a long round or something. You can be in like a 5-card round. They'll play like Portal with 2 cut-ups, Horse and Senior with 2 cut-ups, and now there's 4, and Horse and Senior being an engine himself. Mm-hmm. Now every crime you play is like plus 8. Right?
Yeah. Now you could just play like swindles and just still stay ahead in points. It's nasty.
Don't even need like a spender at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you just play your 0-point specials and generate like 10 points a card.
Yeah.
Right.
If you can get to that point, it's pretty good. And it's a really good bully deck, especially when Sacred Flame is really like you got to deal with it. Hemmelfart pairs so great with it. You can push so hard with that if you're on Red Coin, especially, I guess. It's just 9 points in your pocket once the Sacred Flame is out. But it's not like the reason why the list is very cool is that it's not like a cohesive, like the way Syndicate came out with like the 5 pies, right? Like the 5 leaders, the 5 things that they're kind of good at, plus Witch Hunters, I guess, is like the 6th thing. And then like each leader is sort of catering to each of those strategies. But this Hemmelfart list that runs Crime, Sacred Flame, it is kind of like a little bit of everything. Although it doesn't run Siggy, but it still takes advantage of just like a lot of the good stuff cards, but really focusing on the crimes, which aren't always good. But like if you can play Shakedown, boost your engine, also trigger all of your engines at the same time, like you're protecting and killing everything at the same time. And I just like that it's ended up being like these are the how I saw the meta like changing, like seeing kind of what that good stuff is once we kind of get past that honeymoon phase of, everything that says Spawn might be really good with Hemmelfart. But yeah, developing engines, pushing long rounds, that's what that deck is really good at, I would say. I have one more point I wanted to add, but I can't think of it. But I want to say hello to Ryshik in the chat, developer in CD Projekt Red. He likes to show up for the podcast, and it's been a while. I like to see that you still follow me on there. We're talking about Syndicate right now, and we're really excited about this new patch coming in July as well. Apparently, so I'm going to actually fast forward into this potential bronze patch that could be coming out. First of all, what do you guys think about cards like scoia'tael, Fence, these amazing 4-point cards that Syndicate have? Do you feel like I'm going to ask you both, the power creep is scary, and if the July patch brings all these bronzes up to the level of like scoia'tael and Fence and these bronzes that can just be pretty solid points in round 3 in a short round, does that make the game scary? Is that like power creep, this is crazy, or does that excite you? What do you guys think? I'm going to throw that one to Bushwook first.
I think generally speaking, like it's the right idea to make 4 provision cards like 6 points and 5 provision cards like 7 points. I don't remember what scoia'tael is. Is it a 4 or a 5?
It's the dude who boosts up really tall.
Yeah, he's just like an instant gold sink.
How much provisions is he? Do you guys know?
Yeah, he's
4. Okay. I don't think scoia'tael's like too outrageous, because assuming that you have like a full pouch and you just get to hit the horde ability twice, it kind of just plays 6 for 4, which I think is like just about what they're looking for. It could be like just a little bit close to overtune, because you obviously can like play a swindle after that, and then you're converting 6 points from 4 coins again, and then it's kind of playing for like an 8 for 4, which it kind of starts to snowball towards being too good. But I think scoia'tael's pretty close to where it should be. Fence, I don't feel super strong about Fence either, but I'd probably call it better than Sea Jackal, especially in something like King of Beggars, even though he's kind of weak right now.
Yeah, he
Um,
he was like at the top and then at the bottom very fast. It seemed it was
yeah,
very spiky popularity. Yeah, I think those cards are definitely good, but I think that, and I didn't give them as examples because they're OP cards, but giving them as examples because they are cards that if you draw them in round 3, you're not like, oh, I drew my 4 provision cards. It's like, oh, I can actually maybe make this work. I can actually make good, like I'm not just playing my 4-point like infiltrator or whatever. I'm actually drawing a card that could generate me a lot of points if I sequence it right or I have enough turns to make it work. So you don't really feel like you just drew like a wasted dead card. I think that that's where they want bronzes to be, like more interesting to draw later. Like you don't hate them later. It doesn't feel like you just need to mulligan away or Dodrick away or discard away just bad cards that you never intend on playing in the first place. So just having less bad cards in your deck on average, I think is what they want to go for. But it's really exciting. But I just think that it could just get wildly just crazy. Like the the 5 and 6 provision slot seems kind of almost awkward now when they can get similar points, different. Like that's where the removal starts to come up. So I get it, but I like it. I mean, I think that, yeah, go ahead.
It's a good change, I think. I think just having like really sort of basically just trash throwaway cards, like you were saying, is probably not too great. It makes draw dependency more a factor in like who's winning games and stuff. Like we're not used to seeing 4 provision cards that have a high ceiling, right? Like Sea Jackal, in theory, can be 20 points. In theory, I suppose, but it's not likely. But it could quite reasonably see 10 points if you hit that horde ability over and over and over again. But it does have the downside of playing really tall, right?
But usually that's a downside reserved to something like a spear tip, like an actual big huge unit, as opposed to it being like a 4 provision unit. Like usually it's like, oh, if my 4 provision unit's going to get sniped by a scorch or something, a scorch effect or something that kills a tall unit, you're like, cool, he spent it on my 4 provision unit.
Naturally, they look better than they actually are, though.
Yeah,
like
that's yeah.
When somebody plays fence and it's like a 10-point fence or something, you're like, what? That's a 4 provision card. Of course, there's a cost that comes with that. And part of it, if it's King of Beggars, is the leader value as well, right? Same with Sea Jackal, right? You use 2 horde triggers on it, and it's already at 10. But it's not, you paid 4 coins into that, so it's only at 6 or 4.
Yeah, it's reasonable. Like I think that what they're doing with the coins is it's really interesting. It's just that you have this universal resource that so many cards can care about in different ways. I just really like that. I just really like having that kind of permanent carryover. Like that's like it's like the carryover faction in a lot of ways, like allowing you to play very, very slowly and then just coming in like very fast later. It feels, I think it's just we're learning how to react to it. And I think that there's still probably critical purify areas you can get to in some loops that maybe you can win games off of it. I'm still trying to figure out how to tech it. Also, I want to shout out that Ryshik in the chat is saying, I think as the ambassador of Northern Realms, I should be happy next month. And now the chat's going poggers about leaks. So, hey, if you want to drop some news on us, just a little taste, just something. Give us a little something. Hey, no one's going to tell. We'll all keep a secret. But I just, I think that what's going on with the 4, like the bronzes it's an interesting spot because like Lyrian Scytheman, that's a cool 4-point card. I don't think it needs to be 2 strength to start, but I think its effect is really cool at 4 points because it's very board dependent and can often be a whiff, especially when it starts at 2. You're not happy when you play it and he grows up to be a 4. Meanwhile, the Witch Hunter is already fully grown. It's weird, right? It's like when you get to these comparisons, it really seems outlandish. And stuff like Damn Sorceress, that's a pretty good bronze. Like the idea that card could get buffed. I mean, I think that card already kind of came out of it got nerfed and unnerfed, so I think that card might be fine anyway. But
it's been up and down.
It's been up and down, but a lot of these cards have been.
It's just like strictly worse than the Syndicate version, right?
Yeah, it feels worse.
5 for 4 and 6 for 4 in King of Beggars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely some cards which need a buff, I think, in the other factions.
Yeah, like Dun Banner.
Just feels like you can't play 4 for 4s anymore. I remember at the start of Homecoming, people had just run wolf packs because
Yeah.
You know, that's what a 4 was, right?
It could kill something, maybe. It killed a
But you
Necker, maybe.
can't play wolf packs anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been creeped out of the game.
Something that I am kind of scared about with like the buffing the lower end is for factions like scoia'tael that already have like a really strong high end.
Yeah.
Like it's actually going to round out scoia'tael. Like theoretically, if the bronzes just get buffed, like universally, it's going to round out scoia'tael to the point where I could see scoia'tael being really overpowered. Like obviously, I'm sure CDPR is like figuring out a way to work around that, but assuming that they're just universally buffing all bronzes to 6 for 4 and 7 for 5, then I just see scoia'tael being crazy good.
Well, they were the first one to get nerfed in the first place. They had really strong bronzes out of the gate. They had a lot of ways to get that 3-ping, 4-ping in a world where, 4-ping was already like still finding out how strong 4-ping was in that kind of homecoming world where almost everything that mattered was killed by a 4-ping or Geralt, I guess. But man, oh man, I just and like just look at how much better scoia'tael feels just with Cleaver's Muscle. What a pretty vanilla addition. But even just that addition made it feel better just because there was a more rounder way to play dwarves. It actually like opened up an archetype that actually feels competitive. Just because there's a dwarf that's hard to remove, that's like doesn't feel worth it to remove, but you get value from it anyway. It just so simply, it's like a card that you'd think, oh, it should have always been there, and it's not even a scoia'tael card. This actually is a nice segue into the dual faction cards. I do want to talk about.
You can thin your volunteers without losing on even now.
Yeah, you don't have to like just play your agitator and just hope they don't have what at the time was a very common, usually death blow bonus on a 2. So you just like trying to get that thin. And now you just play Cleaver's Muscle. It's like, I don't want to waste anything on this card. Not even a ping or anything like that. So I asked Twitter, and I asked a lot of people how they felt about the dual faction cards, because I feel like it's kind of like an undermentioned kind of richness that the expansion provided us. If you didn't want to play Syndicate all the time, you at least had new cards and kind of you see new decks out there in the meta. scoia'tael, arguably, people think that Novigradian Justice is the best dual faction card that was released out of all the dual faction cards. What do you guys think about that statement?
It's probably true.
Yeah, probably true.
Probably true. A lot of people were in pretty unanimous agreement that while scoia'tael maybe didn't win in their set, probably because they have a card that still isn't working today, and they also have Cleaver's Muscle, which is a really good card. It just isn't like it doesn't blow your mind with what it does. It's just it is what it is, but it's very good at what it is, and it works with the other card. A lot of people feel like yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I talk too much. It's my podcast. I feel space. I want you guys to talk all the time.
It seems Justice is probably one of the only cards which is seeing play in both of its cross factions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty good statement.
Strictly true, but it sees a fair amount of play in Syndicate and scoia'tael.
Yeah, it's true. People think that Monsters got the overall best package because all of their cards are playable. All of their cards do something fairly strong. It seems like they're more of a Monsters leaning package. I think Monsters get more out of it. Especially because, I tried the spawn, like the Kikamore does spawn, so Eternal Fire could care about it. And Pugo does, usually, it's just kind of like, just feels like a good card. Pugo just feels like you usually can get value for it if you could set your board up. But in Monsters, Pugo's amazing. You can just like kill your Erika's Queen, you kill your Fruit, you kill your Harpy Egg, you thin your Foglet, you have something in the graveyard for Ozrel. It's so damn good. I love Pugo a lot. I put Pugo as maybe like my second favorite. This is a really good card, I thought. But as far as Monsters being the best package, what do you guys think?
I would probably agree with that. Most of the, like, Kikimore is really good in, like, Arrakis Queen, and Pugo is really good in big monsters. I don't think either of those decks are particularly, like, great right now. I think they're, like, probably tier 3 at best, which kind of makes them feel not so good, but they're definitely all playable.
Yeah. They don't need to be made any different, I don't think. I think that, like, as far as the dual faction cards in general, the playability and the viability of them, I think, is Once now we're descending already. Like we've already talked about Novigradian Justice. We've talked about maybe some of the monsters decks could make use of this, but now we're talking about cards that maybe aren't already seeing the cut. Dodric is pretty decent in Nilfgaard. And I think Courier has some pretty crazy applications. Rico is just, it seems like not good. I can't imagine a meta where you would put that card in your deck, even now that it's been buffed. But I think the Nilfgaard's package overall is pretty good as well. Have you guys played with Courier yet? It's slimy with Viper Witchers.
Courier's pretty, yeah, like you said, slimy's a very good descriptive word.
Yeah. Slimy is how I felt when I made a very popular Witcher list, which is I'm scared to refine it.
Viper Witcher, and then you can do some nice things though, like if you predict a Cantarella, like they've played Courier, and then I go burn a Bran and into like one of my golds or something. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of people play Cantarella into like Swindle.
Oh yeah,
which is hilarious.
Cantarella is great, but you need your Courier. Your Courier really helps you.
Yeah.
But like it's even better when you can just take the card. It's so great. And I feel like there's just a lot of ways you can play with those cards, but it does feel like the Courier definitely feels underhanded. Like Nilfgaard is just, they're frustrating, right? That's definitely their identity.
Yeah.
They're just supposed to piss you off, I think, with what they do.
I think the more cards they get that support that, the better the other cards become, and then it's just going to be a very frustrating faction to play against, I think.
How do you feel about, I mean, I've asked this question to people before, but how do you feel about a faction that kind of bases their identity on frustrating the opponent? Like, as far as like a game you want your friends to play, like, it's like, yeah, but there's this faction in the game that's like, will make you like really mad all the time.
It's good as long as it's not like too RNG heavy, right?
True. What do you think?
And I think the best way to run Nilfgaard right now isn't even like using these really frustrating mechanics. I think the soldiers package in Nilfgaard is probably the strongest way to actually run it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's definitely some frustrating Nilfgaard mechanics. And I don't really like them, but I suppose it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, it's like the idea that Usurper is supposed to be like this reviled leader that no one's supposed to like. But that's why, like, that's like very lore. It's like the flavor is so good. Like, you see it, you hate him. You hate yourself a little bit when you play it. I imagine that's what Usurper players, shout out to Mark. I imagine that's how they feel. They hate themselves a little bit somewhere. But it's also like, it's almost like it changes the format completely that you're playing in. It's just, it completely changes the value of all the cards in your deck when you can't use your leader. It's a pretty popular deck right now, Usurper, I would say. Has anybody, I imagine Usurper is pretty popular all over the place at this point. You run into that on the pro ladder on a regular basis?
He's relatively popular, yeah.
Yeah, sort of. There's like a Shoop Usurper.
Yeah, the Shoop Dragon's Dream is out there too.
At one point it seemed like he was seeing play, depending on what was in the meta, like in some previous seasons, like if Arrakis Queen was really popular, or like when Bran was good.
Is he not good?
So there's been like timings of Usurper, which makes sense, but now he just seems to be like one of the best NG leaders because
NG's got that tempo, right? They can do it.
Like, if you draw all your golds with Usurper, you're probably just playing the best NG deck.
Yeah, that's the issue, though.
That's a very Gwenty sentence, right?
So he has that ceiling, and cards like Dodric are really helping him out, I think.
Yeah, Dodric being 6 strength at the same time is like, it's pretty plush, I gotta say. Mm-hmm. Like, that guy just, you need to... Like, I was playing, thankfully, like last time I had my string of Usurper games, I was thankfully playing Croc, who can deal with Dodric in a number of different ways. But yeah, that card definitely it's good. It definitely feels good. You're basically discarding the cards. Like, you just won't see them again. They're going to the bottom of the deck. You don't thin to 0, so you're basically just discarding these cards and drawing more cards. It's really good. I just thought that the Nilfgaard package was pretty cool. It's just kind of a shame. Rico just, I mean, even in a monster's dominant meta, like, would you even run Rico? It's just what he does as he touches down and copies the strength of the last card your opponent played. You're hoping to get a 7 for 6 that does nothing. It just doesn't seem like it's an effect that's, I just don't really, it doesn't feel Nilfgaardy.
I think if Rico was in the first patch of the game when Big Monsters was real popular, you'd probably see play, but
Caldwell, Caldwell,
that's just not the case anymore.
Would have been a great counter to Caldwell, actually, because then you have the 10 as well, so instantly.
He's kind of like, bounties are making people not want to play high base strength. Like
that too, yeah.
Me personally, in my SK decks, I've stopped running Olaf Canute. just because you get annihilated by Graydon.
Yeah, great. Oh man.
So that's kind of countering his viability. If Bounty saw like a nerf and maybe they weren't auto include, you'd see taller units being played. Maybe Rico would see some play.
Tall units just don't seem safe at all. Not like it's Syndicate plays so many of them in the first place, but it's just now like more than ever. It feels like you can't.
He'd probably
tall.
be overpowered at 5 provision, right? Like he'd be a little bit too good at 5. So I think he's okay. It's just the meta's not right for it.
Would you say that Dodric? Oh, sorry. Would you say that Rico's at 5 would be a better card than Alpha Werewolf? Oh wait, Alpha Werewolf got nerfed. Sorry. All my memories just blend together with this game. So many changes all the time.
What, he just needs to get a 5 and then he's a 6 for 6.
Yeah, I mean, would he be? I mean, it's even like the idea of him being like overpowered or not overpowered still doesn't even excite me because what he does is so not interesting. I think it's just like he's like he feels big brain, right? It's just like, ooh, I'm gonna save it for this perfect moment. Boom, there. I just kind of like zeroed out your vote. But much like anything that equalizes, like Scorch is like you don't really add. You're not really adding. You're just matching, and that never feels good anyway. Like it's like why King of Beggars in the past never felt really great. I think, and why Scorch sometimes feels like always so expensive because sometimes you're not adding. You need to have a board in the first place. The end of that. And then we have Northern Realms, which is, I felt like Northern Realms got an okay package because they did get 2 cards that kind of demand removal, but removing them doesn't seem like it's too much of an issue. So it doesn't feel good, Northern Realms things. But in general, I thought that their package of cards was quite good. Temple Guard is maybe a little low for what the 4s are doing, but otherwise I think that Nathaniel Plastodi can, like, a bleed of 2 like matters for 2 turns, even if you pass the next turn. So I think that bleed 2 is like really strong effect in general. So I like Nathaniel Plastodi a lot. And Lebioda just kind of is a concerning card, although he is an expensive card. What do you guys think about Northern Realms cards?
When I first saw Plastodi, I thought he was going to be way overpowered, but turns out Meave is still bad.
Yeah, well, she's it's hard to evaluate Northern Realms right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathaniel's good, but he's not good enough to make like Meave tier 1 or something right now, I don't think. Like it feels like right now, for as long as Uold can do what he can do, or for as long as he's auto included because of how good he is.
Yeah.
You really can't play like Engine NR.
Yeah, you can't lead off. It's really hard to lead off against Syndicate because
like
they
Henselt was one of the best decks last season. Like even with Krak around and Gimpy Gerwin before he got nerfed, Henselt was one of the best decks. And this season, with everybody playing Syndicate, particularly at the start of the season, you were just getting crushed every game. You just literally didn't stand a chance. So it's kind of tough for NR right now, I think.
You share that sentiment, Bushwook, or do you even play NR?
No, I haven't played NR this season, but that's just because there's way too much targeted removal, like way too much like removal capability per turn, just with all the Syndicate running around.
Yeah, that's the world we live in right now. But
that was Henselt's thing, wasn't it? Like spawn multiple engines in one turn, but if you can kill multiple engines, then you're not overloading the opponent's removal.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time when you have like removal, it's usually like committed to one thing. But with Ewald, you have to go to different things. And the only time you would see something similar to that is like in a Henselt mirror, and that's just when order advantage starts to matter. But since everything in Syndicate has Zeal, it doesn't matter who goes first or second. It's just they Zeal and they kill everything.
That's probably the frustrating part. People want to feel like board presence matters, and sometimes if like Syndicate can play super slow, you could feel like you're just like crushing, but you aren't really because you can't attack their coins, and they even Last Say is scary. Gudrun and Horson, and I mean especially Gudrun if her abilities up, but Gudrun in general, Last Say is pretty scary. I would already say. So yeah, it's hard to play. It's hard. It's hard to even. It's hard to even like the passing game feels like harder now. It feels like Last Say is it Last Say more important now than ever, or is that just maybe my twisted perception as I'm feeling like I'm still getting reacquainted with like higher level play?
It depends what decks you're seeing, honestly. Like if you're seeing Gudrun like as the most popular Syndicate deck, then Last Say could be important because they run a full punish and they have a unit that you want to punish.
Yeah.
Vinci. But in general, I'm not sure it's more important or less important.
Feels kind of
So
the same though. Like the passing decisions
I
don't
think
feel more
round
strangled.
control, like it feels more like round control is important. So I think I understand like winning round one is maybe more important, but not necessarily for last say.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might just be that you need to bleed to win, or it might just be that you need to not get bled to win.
Yeah,
Right on.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it does usually feel like the bleed. Usually it matters if it's a single use leader or not. Often, or just kind of reading the matchup, I suppose. But with the Cyrus deck, I liked going for bleeds with that because I felt like it was just so explosive with points personally. But it's just I like bleeding, but I feel like it's usually hard to justify it, and I don't know if that's probably fine. I feel like you're punished a lot of the time for going for a bleed, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what it is. I guess the last cards to talk about would be Skellige's cards, which are not seeing any play at all, I would say. The Tycho Hideaway is maybe something for Syndicate Pirates, but Gudrun has other things to run, and I think that no one's really trying that. And Hammond I don't think Hammond's good in a deck that cares about him. And I also think that Sucrus is a cool effect. Maybe there could be an engine overload strategy that Skellige could build if Sucrus was important in the future, but I feel like he's very expensive for what he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of just a worse protector in most situations. And then it just enables you to be able to play things like Yuta and Veteran, which are kind of worse just because Iced is mostly irrelevant and like the BDM Yuta combo has kind of fallen out of favor. But if Sucrus was just inserted into like the Ice deck from a couple patches ago, like before Crimson Curse, I think, that saw a lot of play, I could see Sucrus being pretty good. But currently, I just don't really think he's there.
It could be application, I guess. What do you think, Green Knight?
He seems like an okay card. Like, he doesn't seem to be seeing play as much. I've seen some people play him, but I'm not sure if it's the cards which he supports are maybe not seeing as much play right now. I don't know. Sucrus is a tough one. I think Sucrus is probably like the closest SK card to being good, right? And I think in like Bushy says, in different metas, different decks, he could be good.
I haven't even tried Artis with Sucrus, but it seems like you could at least. I mean, you'd have to make it stick, but you could play everything next to Sucrus and they wouldn't get damaged. I thought that would be a combo, but I mean, either it's been tried or it hasn't been tried, but I haven't seen anybody try it or do anything like that. But I mean Artis.
I think Artis is also kind of a little bit bad too.
True. I mean, that's 20 provisions for that combo. How could you even make it work? But it just, in theory, I mean, but now you maybe need to find a way to make things immune or live, and now you're building a whole that's the thing. You're punished so hard for building these overpowered combos. It's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing that that's hard to make work, because it would be quite an advantage if it stuck, I guess.
The only time I've seen Artis being played was people trying to Avalak A-Rush him round.
Hey, Adrenaline Rush. There's so many cards in this game that don't see play, and that's fine. But I still think that the fact that they're in the game is interesting. I think that Adrenaline Rush
successfully did it and still lost.
Oh yeah. Resilience doesn't seem that crazy either. I actually think that Resilience has there's a lot of scoia'tael Resilience out there, but it doesn't seem like it's driving me crazy. I always felt like that was such a polarizing effect. Carryover has always been like a hard thing for Gwent to get right for a really long time. Maybe it's just like just because I wanted this to be kind of like an organic discussion, but we are coming up on an hour, but I just wanted to throw this one out there. How do you guys feel about carryover? It's always been something that has been just like a really scary thing for the health of a 3-round game, being able to carry these points over or do stuff later than you're able to. This was not a scripted question, but what do you guys think about carryover in the state of the game that it's in right now?
I think most viable carryover currently is pretty okay. I mean, it can lead to scoia'tael matchups mostly feeling like super, super draw dependent, which really feels bad. Because you either get your Skags and your carryover in round 1 and get your Gabor in round 2 and then you win in round 3, or you don't do that and then you kind of just scrambling to figure out how to win. But if they could figure out a way to make the low end of that situation feel better and the high end of that situation feel worse, to kind of like compress like the range of your emotions during the game, then I think that could totally feel super, super healthy. The only time that I ever thought like carryover felt unhealthy for the game is like you see this a lot in like swim decks because he really likes his A rush and like with the things like the tower and the A rush and the
holding the
all that
charges.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a breakable card, right? He understands the carryover's always been like a problem, right? So he looks at it, he's like, there's got to be a way, right? There's got to be a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think I like carryover to be interactable. I like it to be, so like Gabor's, I think he's a fine example of carryover, really. Like, maybe he's slightly overtuned because he's also an engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you played a dwarf deck, then you'd play a 5 for 9 immune engine that boosts every turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he can also just be 5 carryover as well. He's in some decks. I don't think you like. So
I like Gabor as a card. I don't think he's
uninteractable carryover. Kind of feels bad.
Yeah.
Like if your opponent's got red coin and they just play 2 agitators and Ithlin, that feels bad because you can't do anything about it. You can't interact with it. If they're on blue coin, they can't get away with that because they'll probably lose uneven. Coins, kind of the same, but like if you look at coins, at least they only carry over half, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, for the most part, you're paying for the effects earlier in the round.
Yeah, you do have to
build up 9 coins in round 1. Then that's like 9 points that they're going to take into round 3. They'll only take 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a way of maybe just getting a little bit of that value back or stopping stuff. I had a guy play Avalok to immunize a Resilience Siri Dash past the round, so next turn, like going into the second round, they would draw a card on me. That was like one application of Resilience that I felt was only once, and it did beat me because I definitely didn't see it coming. So I don't know if that was a thing at any point. Maybe it could be a thing. I don't want it to be a thing, but it could. I basically remember when Siri cards were like, was there ever a Siri card that didn't feel like this is a problem or this is terrible? Like it's only all of them too. Every single one of the Siri, not one Siri card has been like just good, right? They've all been like this fucking card. Why?
Too good or too bad, right?
Yeah, like Dash, like it's every Gwent, it's every Siri, every version of Siri Dash, every version of Siri Nova. Siri Nova would piss people off, and now Siri Nova, like, what is that card now? It's like if it's the only card in your graveyard, now you have to put units in your deck now. So like, can you even play that card? It's so interesting. And Siri Standard is like the only one that I think maybe could always have potential. Maybe, I don't know. Siri, please, love for Siri, justice for Siri.
I mean, Siri's in this version of the game kind of got neutered a while ago, but before that, they were pretty strong.
They did, yeah, but that's the idea. They're never you never just like maybe think of including Siri. You're either like turning your nose up at it or drilling at it, right? It's one or the other.
Kind of got over neutered, maybe.
Maybe.
Like maybe not though. Like there's no sort of like, so for a card like Vanilla Siri, it doesn't seem like there's a balance point on that card, right? Because when she was a 6 for 8. Like, it's really hard to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, if your opponent plays that when they're on red coin, then you kind of just say, well, I'm a bit screwed then.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they bleed you with it and they can't kill it, they just get to bleed for free or something.
Yep.
But as soon as it's a 4 for 8, it's really easy to kill. If you draw it round 3, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 5 for 8, it'd probably still be the same. It'd be a little bit better, but I don't think it'd see, like, 5's still quite killable, I think.
I mean, if the flavor of Siri is always card draw, then they're always going to be either too good or too bad. I think because you can't make if Disloyal Spies or really Gwent up until this point has taught us anything, it's that card draw effects are just broken Morvran, broken Stregobor, all of this stuff is just the worst. And like that's the thing about I was talking about this with my stream. Also, by the way, guys, if you guys have any questions for Green Knight and LordBushwook, type it into the chat. I'm going to skip. I'm not going to do the community break or the music. But if you have any questions, we'll put this into kind of community, and I'm going to ask a question to each one of the guests to get things started. But tag me in the chat, @McBearded, and let us know if you have any questions to these players. But now that I've said that, I may have forgotten what I was going to say. What were we talking about?
We were talking about series.
We're talking about the series and card draw, and I still can't remember what I was going to say. But I'll ask the other question I was going to ask. I think to Bushwook, you stream 2 times a day, and you stream Gwent on a pretty regular basis. What is your community like? I know that you are someone that definitely has. Actually, one question: what is the significance of Chewbacca? That's one thing I want to ask you. What is the significance of Chewbacca to you? And also, what's your community like? How would you describe the people that follow you?
That I don't like particularly have any like love for Chewbacca himself. It's just more so I called people that would like camp in video games Bushwookies, and then eventually I was playing Call of Duty, and then I became the Lord of the Bushwookies. It was a whole process.
Oh, that just answers.
That's how I got my name.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
But my community, oh boy, they're something else. I'd say we're probably just a little bit of a degenerate, and then
yeah, you're someone who will say Pepega out loud. You'll actually say that word out loud.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what you
full
bring.
Pepega.
Yeah, full Pepega.
We're full Pepega mode all day, every day.
That's a deep Twitch cut, or not that deep. I don't know. I think everybody maybe knows. Okay, I'm gonna get destroyed if I say this out loud, but I just don't like Pepe. I just don't. Why is that the one that doesn't?
Wow.
Why is that? You know why? Because you know why Pepe never goes away, because you won't ever see Pepe in an advertisement, so you're never gonna see it get uncoolified. You're never gonna get your dad or your mom to be like, "Hey, what's a Pepe?" Is that like you're never gonna see that? So it's like Pepe's just gonna live forever because it's never gonna be something that anybody's gonna want to use against, like, as a marketing ploy. That's what I feel about that meme, but that's how I feel. I got some people angry in the chat. Yeah, I just wanted to spice up the chat. So I have some questions coming in. Let's see. Is there any niche change or rework you might want for a card in the upcoming balance patch? So let's talk about bronzes here. Let's assume that bronzes are going to get the look at. So let's keep this at bronzes. So Jamoni is asking, is there a niche change rework? A niche change? Like, is there an effect that I like that I just want to see? There is a change, I think. I think Black Rayla would be cool if she had an alternate mode that cared about humans in your hand as well. So you could actually, like, play her flexibly, and she could matter in a humans deck, which Northern Realms tends to care about. So that's mine. I'll say, but that's a gold card, so I just broke my own rule that I just said. So maybe come back to me. But what do you guys think? Is there like a card, like a pet card, you kind of like, I just kind of wish that card was better?
I don't know about like niche changes. When I hear niche, I would assume like an effect change, and I'm not a game designer. I'm terrible at thinking about like new card effects and things. I just kind of, when I think about balance, I just do like math and see if it makes sense.
Well, you're clearly not a Redditor.
Clearly not a Redditor. That's right. But yeah, I don't know about like niche changes. I would mostly just want to see like provision changes, and generally see 4 provision cards get 6 points and 5 provision cards get 7 points, and then, have the efficiency go down as the provisions go up.
Mm-hmm. David Rodriguez Jr. is giving his he wants Larry to thrive again. That's a call out to Arcaspor. Wants Arcaspor to get the thrive back. I'm sure that's echoing Flick as well.
If I'm understanding right, just like a small mechanic change, which basically makes certain cards viable, or maybe some of the cards that are too.
A card you
strong.
just wish was better, like a card you look at and think that card you look at, you're like, that would make sense for the deck I want to run.
Like there's a lot of cards which are conditional, right? But they're just like unreasonably conditional, where they just don't get run. Like you were talking about Scytheman earlier, and we played Scytheman in previous metas, but
it's true. But
I think only in a shoot deck, because you had to play some 4s, and sometimes he was good, but like it feels like the bar is now higher, right? And there's a lot of these cards which we were maybe playing 3, 4, 5 seasons ago.
Yeah,
they're just not cutting it anymore.
We've seen like pre-nerfed versions of some of these cards too, so it's kind of hard to wrap my mind around like what the vision is, what vision is correct, like what's reasonable to want. Like I say, Scytheman maybe having a strength increase seems reasonable, but how reasonable is that?
I think that's totally the way to go for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go for it.
I was just gonna say I didn't want to see bronzes all be like 6 for 4 or 7 for 5, because then it's all just very samey. I think like each faction should probably have cards roughly in that kind of range. That's
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
you should have some unconditional options and then have some conditional options as long as, but probably the ceiling shouldn't be too high, right? Like you should be talking like maybe a couple of points at most. Like I don't think you should be getting more than like 8 for 4, right? Because
It's pretty high, yeah.
it's probably
Even
it'd be like getting, depends how conditional it is, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like the one that looks like the I always thought Renegade Mage was just really good. I mean, King of Berries being popular obviously changes the power level of this card, but the idea that you have a 3 removal at 3 strength seemed like really out there. I was thinking like they're pretty confident that adding really strong 4P cards won't change the desirability of good gold cards, but it will make it so if you draw badly or draw, or just don't get a good thin or even like a good draw earlier in the game, when you see these cards later, that they're not just complete trash, but you still want the golds. So that means that making the bronzes really, really strong ultimately won't change what you might want to do with your combo deck, and that's hit your crazy gold cards and just get this crazy combo. But I mean, at the same time, if you just make too much good stuff at 4, then it's just like it might just be out of control. Like, what is 3 going to still be a really good threshold for removal? Like all sorts of things could change. Like engines could go, like the thresholds could go up dramatically. I don't know what they're planning. Like that's the mystery of it right now, is that I actually just don't know what the game's going to be like in like 10-ish days, I suppose. But I'm still playing
You
it
don't
now
want to
because
squash it too much, right?
yeah,
Because if you squash it too much, then to an extent, some of your decisions stop mattering as much. Like you can just sort of jam whatever cards you want on red coin, abuse tempo or something, and it doesn't matter like if your opponent's smart and manages to get a pass or just makes a good pass or whatever, because all of your cards are giving you great value, right? Whereas now it's like, because the cards are so polarized, if you commit too much into round 1, you're gonna pay the price for it later, right?
right on.
But yeah, I think there's got to be a balance somewhere, and thinning has like a pretty big impact on it as well. Like, if you can reliably find your golds, then maybe you can afford to have some really bad bronzes.
Yeah. I think ultimately no one. I think just like from like an overview, a general, vision is that you don't really ever want to say, I don't want to put this bad card in my deck, but I have to. Like you don't want to say you're putting a bad card in your deck just because it fits into the provision cost of the deck that runs the combo that you want to run. So you're just putting like Dimerdium bombs and discarding them in Bran. Like, it would be cooler if Coral kind of enables more interesting ways to discard, but it would be cooler if there was just more cards you wanted to run. That's how I feel about it in general. Bloomlight in the chat is saying, ask him about the wall. Bushwook, I think that question is for you. What is the wall? I will do this.
Well, this is my wall, and they have this fascination with this scuffed piece of paint right here. They think it's some sort of like massive bug or some other things. I don't know. They get crazy with their theories here, but I promise it's just some scuffed paint. I promise.
Government tracking device. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what it is, clearly. But you're for some reason telling me that it's not, which seems weird. So you're clearly working for the government. That's my Bushwook conspiracy theory. Look, I'm part of the fun now too. Let's see. Any more questions here in the chat? Raziel Lafay, how do I prevent my opponent from abusing coins? Boy, that's $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, abusing coins. Do you guys agree that that's like a term that makes sense? Like, is there coin abuse? What does that mean to you guys? What do you think of when you think of the term coin abuse?
I think it's more so just like a lot of things that use the coins can either end up seeming overpowered or end up actually being just overtuned a little bit.
I think in this case it's about turn order. I think this is blue coin. Sorry,
okay.
This is red coin, blue coin, turn order. So I think that in this case, Raziel is asking, how do I prevent my opponent on red coin from like just beating the shit out of me? I guess is just like how like a coin abuse. Like I previously Henselt felt coin abusey, right? Red coin dominator of a deck. So people would use coin abuse to describe like Henselt because of how strong of a red coin deck it is. So do you still feel like coin abuse is as important? Maybe that's a better question.
Obviously it depends on matchup a lot, but especially with games that have scoia'tael in them, absolutely. You can see scoia'tael being absolutely crazy on red coin, but terrible on blue coin, just because their bronzes are really weak,
Mm-hmm.
or at least initially play for really low points, and then later on they pay off. Um, but yeah, it's matchup dependent, but I wouldn't say that it's any more or less relevant than it was before. And I don't really know, like, for example, if you're wrong coin, meaning you're going first on scoia'tael, you probably don't want to be playing your double agitator because you're going to lose on even there.
Right.
And you kind of have your own way of playing around it. You pass on 7, you just play high tempo. But that's a really matchup dependent question.
True. That is true. I mean, it's obviously like I said, that's why I meant about the $1 million question. It's like, how do you pass? Like, that's like a question that can't really be answered in less than 20 paragraphs, probably, if we're talking about every matchup.
I think coin is still kind of significant, of course. I think probably carryover, like scoia'tael carryover, is probably even more of a scary kind of coin abuse than just somebody who's slamming points and they play roach and they're playing gold cards, right? Because if they're doing that, then you might lose uneven, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose the game. I think a lot of people think when they lose uneven, then they just live the loss, right? I think like
it definitely sucks, but yeah, you can do it.
It's a 3-round game, right? And sometimes card quality means more than card advantage, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But carryover in the hand, you can't do a lot about that.
Yeah, it's true.
There is Shillard, but
there's Shillard.
Yeah, that's a card, man. That's a card. That's a cool card, Shillard. I mean, it's just what it punishes and how you can kind of like, especially if it's in the meta or not, it matters. Just like how tall removal being around and bounties being around affects like what we put in our decks right now. I think Shillard being around definitely affects stuff. Last question in the chat, I think, before we wrap this up, but this is a good one. Aussie RG is asking, what leader would your guests like to see get a rework? And of course, there's no guarantees that any leaders are getting reworked at all in this upcoming patch, but it's possible that they could be, especially if there's going to be a rework to Northern Realms that could be, if it's as extensive as Nilfgaard's. We saw Morvran change, so it's not outlandish to think of a leader getting changed. I got to think about this. What leader do I think is the least impressive? I don't know. I feel like Demiven can do other things, but I feel like the charge mechanic is scary to protect, right? I think it's like Northern Realms always feels like it's walking the line of really, really out of control strong. Like Syndicate feels strong, and if they build the right board, forget about it, right? So do we want Northern Realms to be as strong as Syndicate is right now? Yes or no? Is that fair? Like a lot of people have their opinions on how strong it is, but do we want to, like, how do you want another faction to do strong board presence, strong setup like Syndicate can do? Like, it's scary, right? So I think probably it would be Demiven. Maybe they can find an interesting way to do it. I think I mused once on my Twitter that wouldn't it be cool if Demiven had a passive ability that if you played a machine next to a soldier, it got Zeal. Would that be too strong or not? And he also could maybe give 3 charges out overall, like over the course of the whole game. I felt like that would be more interesting, but it wouldn't be like just busted, like you just protect full test pride and just clear their board or whatever. I don't know. What do you guys think about leaders getting reworked?
I still think Morvran's still terrible, even though he just saw a rework. So I wouldn't really expect one. I just think he probably is in need of something new. Maybe, I don't know. It would take another whole Nilfgaard rework or something. But he's still in a really, really bad spot. And a lot of Nilfgaard is in a bad spot too, to be fair. Same thing with like Anna. Assimilate isn't that great, but you can probably just end up with like a buff rather than a rework to assimilate to fix in. I don't think you can really do the same with Morvran. I don't think. You don't think the effect is ever going to see play?
Morvran's good. He's just not got the cards to support him, right?
Really?
Like, I think as
they probably want him to see play, so I don't think buffing him is out of the question. They're excited about the rework, I imagine.
About the only card you want to top deck really is Tibor.
Yeah.
And it's just really big.
It's true. You need Last Say to really punch him with that combo. So I guess it would be the struggle of Morvran getting Last Say, because setting up a Village Forts combo like that doesn't seem out. It seems like it's a fine Last Say. It seems like it's a strong play, but it's just the ability of getting Last Say, I guess, is probably what's holding him back.
And it's just not 2-point efficient. Philg is how much? He's like 11 provisions, and he deploys for 4.
Oh, is he 11?
And then you get it.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then you burn something and you get 17 points for 11 and then minus whatever you burn. I mean, it still sounds pretty decent, but you have to play a 6-point leader that has like a not so easy condition to meet, because most soldiers, there's only like Darlins and slave infantries and like
Pike.
the 2 soldier golds that support those that are like super good. Other than that, I don't think very many soldiers are super strong.
Fair enough. What about you, Green Knight? Is there a leader that you feel like could just be in a little bit better spot?
There's a few. Yeah.
Maybe I'll rephrase it. Is there a leader that you would like to see? I guess the question was about a rework. Like, is there a leader that maybe could just do something different? I know people aren't like super hot on Aridin right now.
I'll just roll with Dem Events.
Dem Event? Okay, that's cool.
Not a few, but like Dem Event seems like NR already struggle with having their engines removed. And then Dem Event is also just the leader, which he's like the lose more leader, right? Like it's already bad enough.
Yeah.
That all of your things are dying. But not only that, your leader is worth 0 points.
Yeah, because you can't play him unless you have something already there. He's like one of the only leaders that feels
when
like
you
that.
lose with Dem Event, you lose really hard.
Yeah. It's just the provisions aren't good enough, right? It's just not like look at what Ethnic can do at the same provision level. Actually use her ability. So
but on paper, he's very strong. Like if a charge is worth 1.5 points, then he's a 12-point leader, right?
Yeah, in a world where you can always get value when you want to, or at least sometimes have some flexibility. It's up to the opponent really if you can use your leader, which is never a good thing. If your opponent can deny, and like your opponent's going to try to do that anyway, so to give them more incentive to do it is just asking for trouble. Guys, this has been a real pleasure to have you on the show, and it's been a real pleasure to do a show for the first time in a while. I will be back for the next news drop, I would say, so I'm not going to schedule anything beyond this. But I will ask my guests if you could let me know what you're up to, especially for the listeners and the people in the chat. Lord Bush, when do you stream? What time zone do you stream in? And where can people find you if they want to follow your content on YouTube and on Twitch and on Twitter?
On all 3 of those platforms, it's LordBushwook. Just spell all one word together. I stream every day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Mountain Time and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. All of those are in Mountain Time.
2 episodes a day, not too bad if that's the streamer you like to follow. A lot of people would definitely love that, their favorite streamer to do 2 shows for sure. And Green Knight, what are you up to these days? How can people follow you? You're not big on Twitter. But you do still work and you do play for Team Leviathan Gaming, so you do have a lot of great deck lists up there. I know that because I asked you about Hemelfart, although we know that Adzakov had a hand in that. But we have somebody in the chat asking about Portal Ericus, so we know that there's still stuff going on. So how can people follow you? How can people get involved with what you're doing?
They can follow me on Discord. I'll probably be making a Twitch very soon, just for gaming, because I plan to start streaming. But yeah, like you can add me on Discord, you can add me in game. You don't have to be shy. Or you can just come to the TLG Welcome Center and then at me, TLG Green Knight, and I'll respond.
Excellent. Well, that is just great. Guys, this has been I've had an awesome time doing this again. It's been a while since I've done a podcast, and it just fills me with joy. I think that
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, Bushwook, I'm just going to say this. You have a good podcast voice. It's like just a good, it's punchy. It's good. I like it. Just you seem like you're a man with good brevity. Just like that's, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm just happy you guys came on the show. Bushwook, I've never talked to you before and you came on my show, so I just thought that was great. I just wanted to make sure that I got some people that are putting in hours into Gwent, and you guys are, I see you, Green Knight, on Discord. You're always playing Gwent. Always says it. And you stream 2 times a day, Bushwook, so I know that you definitely wouldn't pull any punches on how you feel about a game that you play at a pretty high level. So thanks, dudes. Fangirling over Bushwook. Yes, Ethothon, that's true. I think I'll wrap it up here at this point. I'm going to do a quick outro, guys, and then I'm going to be cutting the stream, but we can have a little chat after that. Thanks, everybody, for joining the stream, and we'll throw a host over to another great Gwent player. Thanks for putting me on the directory, my friends. And this is Mick Beard for my guest. Best of luck on the path.